Hello, I'm Glowfenix Out and welcome to my review of Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. This film is a sequel to 2018's The Crimes of Grindelwald. Spoilers beware! This film is interesting, as this series is kind of expanded kind of the Wizarding world, which I do really love. I'm kind of a fan of kind of Harry Potter, and I can't say I didn't really enjoy it. There's this kind of magical feeling watching kind of these kind of Wizarding world films. The world, the characters, the places, the story unfolding, turning from one adventure onto the next. This does that. I like about these films is kind of seeing more kind of not just the British Wizarding community kind of in past ones, to even kind of we've gone to kind of New York, even in the last one we kind of saw Paris, and then there's just a bit even over in this one kind of goes from like Germany to even China, and even we go back to some old places we've visited before in Hogwarts and Hogsmeade. This film is a tale of Newt Scamander, but it's turning more into an origin story of a young Dumbledore and his battle with Gerald Grindelwald. Their relationship, his love, the conflict between each of them, very much the backbone of this film, and as a whole this series. With last one ended, I was hopeful. I was like, well, hopefully this gives some answers, and yes, in a way it does, and does have some fantastic beasts, and a favourite part of mine being Jacob Kowalski. He lit up the room, and in general he's an entertaining character, even though kind of he's now is this muggle who knows about the magical world and knows of what it is. As the film goes on, from sequences of characters carrying on the plot, and then there's that sequence of the kind of fantastical beast crab dance sequence. I'm not really sure if it was supposed to be kind of funny, but seeing Newt and his brother Theodos waddle away was just funny, and it was like, okay, that just happened. And then we saw some more ones, meaning that now actually the Niffler has a name called Teddy, and then we also had Pickett, but Pickett wasn't already named. Well, he was named. We already knew his name. And overall they are kind of quite fun creatures, but the more I think about this, more I'm like, this was alright, but it kind of felt like there was a missing character in being Tina. And then they kind of did say, oh yeah, she was off being kind of the head of the American auras, but seriously, she was quite a cool character. I quite liked her, and kind of felt missing a bit, being like, oh, she hasn't popped up again. Where is she? Well, we're told where she is, but I'm like, oh, could she have not been here? But they did introduce kind of this another character, like this Professor Laurie Higgs, and I was like, oh, she was cool. This kind of charms. She kind of used charms very well. She was this excellent charm caster. She was like, alright, but like I was like, he was alright character, but like I was like, but Tina we already have a history of Tina, and Tina just with her being kind of absent from this film, I was like, oh good, like yeah, like Jacob was still there, and Jacob I've already mentioned I quite like. He's probably like I think one of my favourite characters in this Fantastic Beasts series. Kind of in the more like lower, darker moments, he can sometimes lighten up the room. And yeah, that's kind of some thoughts. On to another one, being Queenie. So, Queenie. Now, talking about her and the kind of character she could be cool. Kind of this person who can read minds and kind of thoughts like that could be interesting, like explored. But kind of one of my kind of annoyances and grapes with the last film and kind of the ending of that was when she decided to side with Grindelwald. Now, in that she did have her own motivations, because primarily in America you can't marry a muggle or no match, and like maybe over this film she could have realised that okay, that maybe yes, she is breaking a law, marrying someone, either marrying a muggle, and like there is a law in place that you cannot do that at the times of this film, which are set in the 1930s. But then I'm like, but then she realises that actually Grindelwald is yes, overall his goals are to try to take over the world and be a more kind of try to be more progressive, but also in the ways that he is could be quite a cruel and manipulative person. So, like, yes, like Grindelwald uses her to kind of keep tabs on Credence, but like then she's kind of later on in the film kind of switches sides, and we're like, oh yeah, you were on the side of the bad guys, and now you're not. Her kind of back and forwards. She's kind of okay, back to the good guys, the heroes we follow, and I'm like, oh, like her motivations are like I do see where they're coming. They needed to maybe be fleshed out a bit more and more than they were, and that's kind of a bit thoughts of kind of her character in this film. Answers. As I said earlier, that one of these things I wanted this film to do was give some answers. And one of them that I was very happily, after introducing the idea of obscurials in like the Fantastic Beasts being like this person who's magical abilities but sort of keeps them inside, and it was finally confirmed that Dumbledore's sister, or deceased sister, Ariana, was one. And I was like, yay, I was happy about this reveal. Even though overall this film was a mixed bag for me, I was like, yes, they finally confirmed that. Because it wasn't really confirmed it for primarily in the Harry Potters, because I don't think obscurials were in that. But like in these Fantastic Beasts films, I was like, oh, probably she is that. I thought, yeah, that definitely I could connect the dots. And overall, it's kind of a very small detail, but one that I'm like, okay, I was very pleased with that. And overall was a mixed bag for me. This answer pleased me very much, and in the overarching story from coming from a fan who's enjoys the series and this world, the answer was yes, I liked that answer. Now, another answer, or more in the character of Credence. He's interesting, as throughout this film you see him and him coming to terms and the conflict inside him that shows that he's a hurt and painful individual who has had a troubling past. Over the course of this film, are fully answered to the last thing that was said in the previous film, being dun 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 dun, he is a Dumbledore. From that battle with Dumbledore, or Albus Dumbledore, which was cool, then gave the answer being that he was Aberforth's son, Dumbledore's brother. Now the thing is, this sort of makes sense, as Aberforth, we don't really know too much about him. He's a very closed off and very personal person. So, he is the owner of the Hog's Head, which is primarily the tavern in Hogsmeade. So I could see them being connecting the dots, being like, oh, actually that could have happened. He could have had a kid without him knowing that he had a son. So it both explains the connection. So he is still a Dumbledore, but also is another secret that the Dumbledores have, which is, well, being the title of this film. Now I've talked a bit more about other aspects, from some of the characters to some of the places they visit, to overall some of my thoughts on some of the characters and answers and questions that this film brings up more answers. Now I'm going to be talking about, well, the new face in Grindelwald. This guy really likes changing his face. From the first film, where he was the majority of the film not his face, then in the second film it was someone else, and in this third film he's now being played by Mad Mixon. He does a good job. He has this sinister look, and then there's the interesting taste of how fanatical his followers are. As this film goes, evolves around him and Dumbledore's relationship, and he was sinister, he is an evil wizard, and as all wizarding stories in this world, they need to have an evil wizard against each other so that we could have a good versus evil battle. Overall, I thought it was quite good. let's get down to my overall thoughts on this film. As over the course of thinking about this film, I was like, this was alright. It's a nice performance, it's some cool wizarding moments, and I was like, but there were parts of it that I was like, they could have done this better, there could have been maybe a bit more emotion in these films. Then there was kind of a character who was featured more prominently in the last, who only popped in the last one scene. The plot was okay. It did have the whole bit about trying to confuse the villain, which means as an audience member, okay, I need to try to follow along with this. It's a mixed bag. For someone who is quite a Harry Potter fan and seeing this story in more of the magical world, yes, there were some fantastic beasts in this film, but Newt is still kind of relatively the central character of this one, even though it's more now being turned into the battle between Dumbledore versus Grindelwald. He's going along on this adventure, helping out a friend. The performances were nice. As I said before, I think this film is alright. It's not perfect, and I would want more adventures. Yes, if they do carry on this series, I'll be very much happy and very much enjoy the Wizarding World. And overall, it was an alright film, and that really finishes my thoughts on this film. My rating for Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore is 7 film emoji, which in my system means it's a good film. Glowfenix Out.